Hi everyone, welcome to our very first little free technique using Artisan Glazes. I'm not sure how many of you have had the opportunity to use them out there in the field, but I know you're going to love them. They're a typical Artisan Glaze, which means time, temperature, and application will vary the color. All the pieces you see here have been completed with the Artisan Glazes, and the two projects that we're going to be doing tonight, Halloween projects, are also completed with the same Artisan Glaze and also using a texturizing medium to give us our design. So have fun, everyone. Okay, folks, here we go. We've got our plate here. It's the Duncan 04 bisque, and it gives you the plate number on your supply list. And we're going to be using, like I said, Artisan Glazes tonight, and I know you're going to have a really good time if you have not used these before when you use them, because, you know, as an art glaze goes, its time, temperature, and application makes the colors change a little bit. So they're kind of fun to work with, and that's why tonight I've chosen the texturizing technique to try with. So Artisan Glazes, of course, concepts, and then our mixture of 50% French dimensions along with 50% of low-fired slip. If you don't have access to the low-fired slip, just leave that part out and just sponge your concepts onto your piece. It won't give you the texture, but it will give you the look. The look will be kind of the same. You just won't feel the texture. So remember, I said in your supply list that you're going to need not construction paper, but a file folder. And I use file folders to make my patterns because that way I can keep them and use them over and over and over again. So looking at the piece here, you can see we need to cut out our cat and make sure that we use the positive of him and not the negative. We're going to use the negative later. So we're going to cut him out, and everything that you see in black is sponged with, or in dark is sponged with the texturizing, and the rest of it was blocked out with contact paper. So that's why we need to make our template. So you'll make your kitty cat, and of course what I did on my plate is I turned it over and made drew a line of the double little scalloped edge there, and then of course turned it over and cut it out of my paper. You want to make sure, you can see mine are a little close here, so I need to trim this down just a little bit, so that when you put the contact paper together, you actually have a space there that will create a line for your texturizing medium. And so make a template of that and set that aside because you'll trace around that onto your contact paper. Again, like I said before, we're going to do exactly the same thing with the cat. You're going to trace around him and cut him out of file folder as well, so you will be able to use this template several times. So once you have got your template done for your scalloped edge, you're going to cut 8 of those out of your contact paper to go around the outside edge. So you can see here I have also have cut out of contact paper 2 little tiny eyes for the kitty cat. Now those are up to you if you want to do that or not. Now what you want to do is take your little scalloped edges that you have cut out, and you want to fold them in half, and you want to make sure that you trace half of your bat onto that section, and take your scissors and actually cut that bat out. And I fold it in half, so I only have to cut half a bat each time and not cut the whole bat. And of course that way it makes both sides exactly the same if you're cutting them at the same time. So make sure that you don't throw your bats away. Keep those. So we're going to cut 8 of those out. And we're going to hang on to our little bat and of course our kitty cat that we cut out. So that's the negatives. We're going to hang on to the negatives and we're going to use the positives. So then you're going to take your piece, and then it will literally go to the edge of your plate, matching the 2 scallops, just like that. Okay, so I've already done one. I've already got one plate done except for 1 scallop, so that you wouldn't have to sit and watch me put all of the contact paper on. So take your one that we have left to do, and I know people struggle with getting the backing off of contact paper. And I'm going to share with you my little trick that works really good for me. It does take patience, so you do need to have patience. But remember, the contact paper has a sticky side and a non-sticky side. So the printed side is the sticky side. And the contact paper I'm using tonight is done by Duck. It's a new product that they have out on the market. It's the same people who do the duct tape. It's a really nice grade of contact paper. It's very flexible and it's easy to work with, and it pulls off and leaves no residue. Now, you know, when you go to pull the backing off, most people try to pull it off with fingernails, or they try to use a sharp tool or whatever they can to get it apart. Well, I don't have any fingernails either, so here's what I do. I actually place the sticky side, which is the printed side, towards me. So then I take my finger and I press my finger right along the very edge and pull towards me. And you can see as I pull, the sticky part sticks to my finger. Excuse me, and I can pull that backing right off of there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually lay that so that it matches my edging, and I'm going to press it down. And it's really important here that you make sure that all the edges and around your bats are all pressed down really good, as well as all around your cat too. So now that we have the piece prepared, and this actually takes longer than it does to actually paint the piece, is we're going to apply the texture medium. Excuse me. The texture medium, again, is 50% French dimensions, 50% low fire slip. And I'm using black tonight mixed with my low fire slip because I happen to have a lot of black, and because we want the design to be dark anyway, I figured, okay, I'll just use some of my black, and that way make it go away. But if you're going to do this with any other color, you'd want to make sure you mix it with white French dimensions so that whatever color you put on top, it will reflect that color and not distort it. I'm also going to apply the color tonight with a seawool sponge, which is much more open and lacy than your normal replacement or potter sponge. You always want to make sure that you do condition the sponge before using it, and that means dip it in water, wring it out, place it in a paper towel, and wring it out again so it is just barely damp. Now you're going to look for the most open, lacy part of the sponge, and you're going to dip that into your mixture, and you're going to sponge the cat. And as you can see, and I'm putting it on, I'm not putting it on solid. I'm leaving some of the background showing. And of course I have to lift that up a little bit right there because my cat's foot's underneath there. So just make sure that you get the cat done. And then once you have your cat done, you're going to go around and do each one of the bats. And of course, you're going to do the stripes between the bats as well. Reloading your sponge as you need to, and making sure, again, that you keep it kind of open and lacy and not solid. Because it's going to be really important that you have some of the Artisan Glaze come through and give it even more variation in color than we would have if it was just strictly solid. So if you were doing this with just concepts and made it solid, your definition of your bat and your cats would be much truer. So you can see here, without doing any black concepts on top of this mixture, it gives you kind of a brownish gray look. And if I do concepts on top, you can see on this piece here, I did concepts on top, that it makes it a little darker. So on this one, just to show you how it's done, I'm going to actually do concepts on top of here. So just put little concepts onto your palette. You don't need to rinse out your sponge. Just load it with your concepts and go back over kind of lightly and block in a little more of your cat and your bat so that they're a little darker than the one that I showed you previously, which is more of a brown-gray look. And I think maybe you'll be happier with the one that's a little bit darker. And I know I would have been. But I thought, well, you know what, let me leave this so that you can see what the difference is. I think show and tell is really good, because if you're like me, us artsy people are very good with visuals more than descriptions. So I love to do visuals. So once you have all the sponging done, now you're ready to pull off all of your contact paper. And you want to make sure that you pull it off before it gets really dry so that it won't chip your paint. And I'm using, it's actually a lace tool or a pen tool to pull off, and that's only because, like I said, I don't have any fingernails, so I can't get underneath and pull the contact paper off. But you're going to get your fingers dirty because the contact paper, the product never dries on it. So be careful that you don't get any like I just did on the center. So if you do, just take your pencil eraser and erase it right off of there. You can see that erased right off. You may want to pull it from the outside rather than the inside, so you don't have to worry about getting your fingers in it, like I did to begin with, because you are going to get your fingers messy. So continue to go around the piece and pull off each one of your sections. Of course, last but not least, you will pull off the actual cat on your plate. And I think one of the things that you want to remember here is you're not limited to doing bats and cats. You know, if you wanted to do this project and have a pumpkin shape in the middle or a skull shape in the middle, or, you know, I mean, whatever you want for Halloween would be great to do this project with, especially with kids. And it wouldn't have to be on a plate. It could be on a tile. It could be on a box lid. It could be on whatever you want it to be on. So continue to pull it all off. We need to pull off the cat. Make sure we get him all off of there, because it's really important that you get all of the contact paper off, because if you don't, then when it expires where the contact paper was at, your plate's going to be white and there'll be no glaze on it, and that's not a good thing for a plate. So we want to make sure that we get all of it off. Don't forget to pull his eyes. That's going to be important, because we don't want any poltergeist eyes when our plate's done with cat and his dark plate and then these white eyes looking at us, especially because the eyes won't have any glaze on them. So you can see how simple that was. This was a quick little project to get this part done. And he looks cute even just like this. You know, you could put clear glaze on him if you want. But I think you'll have fun with the Artisan Glazes. So I'm going to rinse my sponge out, and of course I'm going to take my cheapy sponge, or what I call my potter sponge, and let me wipe my tile off first so I can put my color out. Because whenever you're working with a sponge, you need to make sure that you have your color out on your palette so that you can control the thickness of the color on the sponge. So anyway, we're ready to go. And what I would do is, if I were you and I was doing it at home or you're doing it with customers, I would turn it over and have them sponge 2 coats on the back first. That would give the front a little more of a chance to dry a little bit. So just pour some color out on your tile. Again, we're going to condition our sponge, so we're going to put our sponge in water. We're going to make sure that there's no other color in our sponge. It's good and clean. We're going to actually put it in a paper towel and wring it out, and then we're going to, and you can see I use the edge of the sponge. I don't use the round flat part. I use the edge. And you can see I'm pouncing it on pretty close so that I'm getting pretty solid coverage, because now's the time we want the solid coverage. You're going to apply 1 coat, and as soon as it loses that glossy look, you can apply a 2nd coat. And of course it's going to take a little longer for it to dry where it's over top of the mixture, texturizing mixture, and the concepts than it will when it's on the bare bits. But that's okay. Just allow it to dry so that when you put the next coat on, you're not pulling any color off. That's probably one of the important things to remember that a lot of us have a tendency to do. So go around the whole piece once. Again, let it dry, and then go around and do it a 2nd time. I only apply 2 coats when I sponge, because I sponge on much heavier than I brush on. And so I only need to have 2 coats. And I like it when you sponge, because if you look at this piece here, you can see on the background how there is a variation in the color. And that's all the same Artisan Glaze here, oyster shell, but because of applying it with a sponge and having it heavier in some areas than other areas, it gives you that variation in color, which I absolutely love. So anyway, that piece is now done. You're going to let it dry overnight. You're going to, of course, put it on a stilt and fire it to cone 06. And of course, when you're done, don't forget to remove the stilt marks. On the second piece here, this is when we're going to use the negatives. And what I did is I took the cat and, of course, the bat and placed them on my piece. Then I took my texturizing medium and I texturized the whole top of the plate. Going back with concepts, I darkened it a little bit. And you can see how the concepts will darken it, and it actually has a variation in color as well. Then you will pull off all of your contact paper and apply your 2 coats of your oyster shell or the color of your choice to both the back and the front of the piece. Again, let it dry overnight and stilt it and fire it to a cone 06. So you can see these projects were pretty simple. There's not a brush used on either one of them. It probably will take you longer to cut out the contact paper than it will to complete the project. But you know, if you have a studio and you want to do this as something that you're going to do as a group, you could have the pieces cut out for them ahead of time if you'd like. Or if you want it to be a longer class, let them cut it out and it'll take them a little longer to do it. But you can see here, this project probably took us less than 15 minutes to actually complete once we got the plate all prepped. So I hope this was a fun thing for you. If you really want to have the instructions and the patterns for this piece in hard copy, if you will send me, go to my website, which is arlened.com, send me an email and ask me to send you in a PDF file the instructions and the patterns for this piece, and I will be happy to do that for you. Keep in mind that we're going to be trying to do this once every quarter, so stay tuned. Bye everyone. Have a great evening. Hope you had a lot of fun. Go to my website. I have some other things that are done on the website that are also done with the Artisan Glazes. In fact, the 4 pieces you saw, I actually have them in a pattern packet if you're interested in knowing how to do all of those projects. So till next time, and we have another freebie for you. Have a great Halloween. Take care, folks.